College football is back, and we're back on the Big Mountain, where we bring you a fresh take on college football betting, focused on the Big Ten and the Mountain West.
It's great to have you back here. We are at week 5 of the college football season, and it is time for our picks and predictions again. We had a really good week 3, a really good week 4. We're looking to roll right into week 5. I'm pretty confident with what we got. I think Steve's just as confident. Just as a reminder, if you're new here, my name's JY, and this is my good friend Steve, and we're going to get right into the predictions. We'll start with Steve and his Big Ten picks and any other picks that he has. Then we'll get to me and my Mountain West picks, and I have a few other picks as well. So let's not waste any time. Go right into it, Steve. Big Ten.
Let's roll right into it. So in our reaction video, we gave you some early lines, and I gave you Penn State at Northwestern minus 24.5. That was an early line. I hope you guys watched the video. I hope you jumped on it because it's moved to 27.5. I still like it at 27.5. I would still pick it at 27.5, but I did give you that early line pick, Penn State minus 24.5. So that's going to be my official pick, but I do still like it, like Penn State to cover 27.5.
And not much of a homer pick when the line moves 3 points on you. So,
exactly.
If you didn't see our early line picks, we actually do those in our reaction videos. So if you're new here and you want to like and subscribe, we always do reactions after the fact. We usually get them up on Sunday or Monday. And the past 3 weeks, we've been doing early line picks. We look at those early FanDuel lines. Steve's always on top of that. And they've been hitting for us here so far. Hopefully that continues this week. And a 3-point movement is pretty substantial. So well done on the early line for that.
Awesome. All right, so moving along, Louisiana at Minnesota. Minnesota's kind of done me dirty this year, but I'm going to go back to them one more time. The problem with a team like Minnesota, I think they're a solid team. They do not have a great offense. It's hard for them to cover. I am going to go back to the well on Mini one last time. Mini minus 11.5, and if they don't cover this time, I think I'm done with Mini this year.
I was hoping you were. I don't look at any of the Big Ten spreads. Again, that's Steve's forte. He looks at them. I really don't pay any attention. The first time I'm hearing this is when Steve presents this, and just now in my brain I'm going, I hope this is single digits. I hope this is single digits, and it's not. But hey, you know them, the Big Ten very well, and I will totally trust you on that. But I also understand that this might be the final chance for Minnie to make you some money and make us some money.
And it's important to remember this is not one of my Big Mountain Ice Cold locks. It's just a straight up pick. I don't love it, but I am going to pick Minnie to cover that 11.5.
Okay.
So moving forward, my other early line that I gave everybody was Maryland minus 14.5. It's Indiana at Maryland. Now this line actually has not moved, but I still love it.
Yeah.
I think Maryland is at least is 2 to 3 touchdowns better than Indiana. And the thing is, Maryland's offense has been really good all year. They've done a good job covering. Even when they started behind, they've got that offense. Talia he's their rock star. He's their golden child. He keeps that offense moving. So that was my early line pick, Maryland minus 14.5, and it didn't change. But I'm changing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make that a Big Mountain ice cold lock. Okay. Maryland minus 14.5.
I love it.
Feel really good about that.
And when you have those big lines, we've talked about this the past couple weeks. You want to make sure that the team with the large spread there can score points, and Maryland can. Sometimes you get some of these teams, they're giving them large spreads, but they maybe don't have quite the offense. They might be the better team by a long shot, but if their offense can't score points, that spread can be a little hard to hit. But not the case with Maryland. I love the lock. Well done.
Awesome. All right. Yep. So Big Mountain ice cold lock, Maryland minus 14.5. Hosting Indiana. Okay, so moving forward, so we've talked about this quite a bit. Michigan has not covered the spread once this year.
Correct.
And we picked Michigan to not cover the spread.
Every time.
Every time, so those have been winners for us. I did.
Yeah.
But here on the Big Mountain, we've been picking that. We've been on that train. Here's where I think they get off the train this week, okay? Michigan is at Nebraska. This is Jim Harbaugh's second game back now. Yeah. They've been disappointing this year. They've heard, everything that they're not meeting expectations, this and that, yada yada yada. Nebraska is still just not a good team,
right?
Especially offensive team.
Yes.
Nebraska can run the ball. They can play against the run. They have a solid defense, but I really think Michigan is going to unlock that offense against just a not good Nebraska team. I think that they're ready to show the country, what they got, what they can do. So I'm going to take Michigan to cover 17.5. And all year I felt good about them not covering the spread.
Yeah.
And I think this is the game that they're going to turn that around. And so I'm taking Michigan minus 17.5.
Well, how much better do you think Nebraska is from Rutgers? Because the spread is about, I think it's 4 points less.
Yeah.
Than what it was last week.
Yeah. I
think it was 24 last week. Maybe a touchdown less.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rutgers I would take Rutgers straight up over Nebraska right now.
Okay, so there you have it.
Yes, yeah.
That's why I asked the question.
And that's the thing is I feel like the lines on Michigan have finally
you can see the trend.
Yes.
Right. Well, they haven't. I mean, Vegas has to be paying attention that their lines have been too high at this point. And I agree with you. At some point, they're going to break it, and it's not going to be broken by a point. They're going to crush it.
Yes.
And I'm with you on this week. I think this is given that spread. This is likely the week for it to happen.
Totally agree. So we're going to go ahead and take Michigan minus 17.5. All right. So my next game, Illinois at Purdue. I was high on Illinois at the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. They haven't lived up to my expectations, or I don't think anyone's expectations.
Yeah.
Purdue, I think Vegas was high on. You've brought this up quite a few times, where as the defending Big Ten West champions, Vegas seemed to not get that they are in a rebuilding mode.
Right.
They went from having an offensive-minded coach, he's gone. A defensive-minded coach comes in. They're totally rebuilding.
Yeah.
They brought in a transfer quarterback. Illinois still, their offense is rough, so they've had trouble covering. This is a close game. And we talked about this when you have a close game. I think these teams are pretty even, but I think Illinois is a slightly better team.
Okay.
So the line is Illinois plus 1.5.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and take the points in a close game. Illinois plus 1.5. I do think Illinois wins this game straight up. Mm-hmm. But when I looked at the money line and I looked at the points, I'm going to go ahead and take Illinois plus 1.5.
Yeah. Okay.
Any comments on that?
I think that's a horse we've been riding too. Kind of the Purdue not to cover, or even with the points that they get, I don't think they've been the favorite here too often. But I'm still on the side of, like you said, I'm still on the side that Vegas is over estimating what Purdue is. So I'd be on that horse for the opposite side of Michigan until they show that they're going to break some spread. So I'm totally comfortable with that. Yep.
And honestly, and I think we're seeing that still built in. I was surprised that Purdue is a 1.5 point favorite, even though it's at Purdue. It's a 3:30 game, so they don't have that nighttime. They've had some nighttime upsets, but I was surprised. I thought Illinois would be a 2 to 3 point favorite.
Yeah.
So when I saw that Illinois was getting 1.5 points, I took it. So
Absolutely.
that's what we're going to do.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So Michigan State at Iowa. This week, we have some Big Ten teams on buys, and this week is kind of a story of these teams who, I'm making a pick. I've committed to picking every Big Ten game.
Yeah.
But I have some teams that are favored that I think will win. I think they're better than the other team, but they've struggled to cover the spread. Mm-hmm. So this week we have Michigan State at Iowa. Iowa is a 12.5 point favorite.
Okay.
I've been low on Michigan State all year. I've been down on them, and that's pretty much held out. Iowa, I started high on them. We kind of went down on them with their offense.
Yeah.
They're coming off of that beatdown against Penn State. Their offense was atrocious. They didn't even have as many. They had 4 first downs, I think, the whole game. We saw. I sent you a stat this week that Iowa went 3 hours between first downs. 3 hours of real world time between first downs at Penn State. Penn State has an elite defense. Mm-hmm. I think they're in the top 5 in both rushing defense and passing defense.
Okay.
Michigan State, total different story.
Sure. Yeah.
Michigan State is a train wreck. Iowa has their offense has not done me well this year, but I'm going to go ahead and pick them. Iowa to cover the 12.5. I think they're going to use this as a bounce back game. They just got embarrassed. They're the better team than Michigan State, and they're a good 2 touchdowns better team than Michigan State, and I think they're going to take out their frustration and their embarrassment on Michigan State, who's in shambles, and I'm picking Iowa to cover that 12.5.
Okay, all right. I like your reasoning there. I am never big into large covers for Iowa, but your reasoning certainly makes sense to me. I don't think I'll be betting this game. Nothing against your pick, but the spread seems slightly high for me to bet that on Iowa. So
If I didn't commit to picking all the Big Ten, I wouldn't have picked this one.
Right.
Now, what I will say, so we've been tracking Iowa. They have to average 25 points a game for the offensive coordinator to keep his job, Brian Ferentz, the son of Kirk Ferentz, the head coach. Mm-hmm. Last week they were tracking. They were ahead of the game.
Right.
And then last week they rolled a donut.
The big goose egg. Yeah.
Yes. So I do think there's going to be motivation there to get back on track on that 25 points a game. So we'll see how it goes. But those are my picks.
All right.
Do we want to review those again?
Yeah, let's go over them.
Okay. All right. So starting Penn State, I gave that as the 24.5 early line. It did change to 27.5, which I still like. I would still take the 27.5, but my official pick is logged in with that early line pick of Penn State minus 24.5. But if you're looking at it and you want to pick that game and the 24.5 is not available anymore, go ahead, take that Penn State minus 27.5. I think it's a good pick there. Mini minus 11.5. I do have Maryland. That was an early line. I took it as an early line at 14.5. Maryland to cover 14.5. And that's my Big Mountain ice cold lock for the week is Maryland to cover 14.5. Michigan's going to break their streak, and I have them covering 17.5 at Nebraska. Illinois and Purdue. I have Illinois plus 1.5. When I did look, FanDuel was the only place that was giving 1.5. A lot of the other sites were just giving a half or one.
Okay.
So if you want that Illinois plus 1.5, go to FanDuel. I was able to get that about, 20 minutes before we started recording. So Illinois plus 1.5. Really, I like Illinois plus any points.
Sure.
Michigan State at Iowa. We're gonna go back to Iowa one more time. I think that they have that revenge game, so I'm picking Iowa to cover 12.5 points against Michigan State.
Awesome. Well done. You ready for Mountain West?
Yeah, what you got for us, Jay?
All right, let's go to the Mountain West. And I'm calling this week the Big Cat Week.
Okay.
You'll find out why.
All right.
As I get through some of these games.
I'm ready.
So I've got about 6 or 7 Mountain West games. I have 2 other games, and I have 3. Count them. 1, 2, 3. Big Mountain ice cold locks for our viewers to make some money.
I love those ice cold locks.
So let's start with the first one. The first one was Unleashed at our early pick.
Yeah.
As an early line pick back at our reaction video.
Yeah.
And that was the Utah State at UConn. When we picked that, it was at 5.5. I mentioned I could see that moving up to 6.5 or 7.5. It is at 6.5 now.
Okay.
So my ice cold lock is at the 5.5. I still like them under or to be at that touchdown or under that 7, under that touchdown threshold. So I'd still take them at 6.5. The lock, however, the Big Mountain ice cold lock is at 5.5 for Utah State to cover against UConn. I think they have too much offense. I think it'll be a high scoring game. I just think Utah's got more offense than UConn does.
Love it.
So number 2, Boise State at Memphis. This is the one that I have the most concern over making a call, but I'm taking after you, Steve. And I said, enough of this not calling games. I'm calling every game.
Go for it.
So I'm going to call this game. So Boise State at Memphis. And this will be my first cat call with the Tigers of Memphis. I am going to take the Memphis Tigers at minus 3.5. I just think they're a better overall team. It's home. Boise State is coming off a big win versus San Diego State. I just view Memphis as being a slightly better team. You saw how they played against Missouri last week. They were right there with them. And Missouri's a ranked team.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to take anything away from the Broncos. I just think Memphis is a better team, and I like them at minus 3.5.
Okay.
The next one, Hawaii at UNLV. UNLV's been a team that we have been watching here the past few weeks. Really enjoyed watching them. Maeva at quarterback. Again, not sure if he's going to be starter or not. I like UNLV in this game, irregardless of who's at quarterback. They are giving up 11.5 points, so they're the favorite by 11.5. I see them covering that. UNLV, I mean, we talked about this I talked about this in the preview video, that they could be the dark horse, so to speak. And a lot of people were kind of looking at them as a dark horse candidate in the Mountain West. And so far, they've shown that they definitely, fit that bill. They have a good offense. They just were scoring tons of points last week against UTEP. So I think their offense is just going to be way too much for Hawaii to handle here. So I'm taking UNLV minus 11.5.
Totally, I love the pick, and I will say something I've been on is, for me, Maeva is the easy choice at quarterback. I know the coach has a certain policy, yada yada.
Sure.
If you got to bring the starter back and maybe rotate him, see who plays better, whatever. But the coach is doing a disservice if he doesn't have Maeva at least playing the majority of the snaps. Whether who gets the start, whatever.
Right.
I really think that UNLV has a dynamic offense with him. A dynamic and dangerous offense that can hurt you multiple ways. So I love the pick, and I'm hoping for UNLV's sake, I'd love to see them continue to ride Maeva. I think they can be a very dangerous team.
Yep, totally agree. Next one, and I'm wearing my Go Pokes shirt, so I am showing some bias here, but there's a reason why. So New Mexico's traveling up to Laramie to visit the Pokes. The Pokes, when I took them, again, this was another one I took in our early calls. I took them at minus 13.5. I love them at being under that 2 touchdown. It has moved up a point. It's now minus 14.5. I don't love that as much.
Okay.
And I will say the past few years have not been good to the Pokes versus New Mexico. New Mexico's actually won 2 of the 3, and this is a somewhat, for the past several years, struggling Lobos team, and they have upset Wyoming. And even last year when Wyoming won, they won by 13. So if that plays true again this year, they're not going to cover my 13.5.
Yeah.
But I think this is a better Wyoming team than they were last year. I think the offense for New Mexico is better than last year. But that Wyoming defense, I think, will just be far too much for the New Mexico offense. Yeah, they may score a touchdown or 2. The Lobos, probably a couple. But I need to see a big bounce back from Wyoming's offense here. Really poor passing game last week. So we'll see how that goes. But so I'm bucking the system here a little bit. The recent history with these games and the Lobos and the Pokes. I'm going to stick with my 13.5 with the Cowboys. As I said, they're 14.5 now, not nearly as high on that line, but the pick was 13.5. Next one, San Diego State continues their hellacious start to the season schedules. They go to Air Force. They just had a tough game against Boise last week. Some would say maybe a little disappointing. As I said in the reaction video that we had, I thought San Diego State actually was the better overall team and offense. But there were just some game changers on the Boise side that had them squeak that out. But they're traveling to Air Force. It's just riding crazy offense right now.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure how to make heads or tails of what they're doing point wise. Certainly, San Diego State's defense is probably the best defense that the Falcons have faced this year. One of the best that they'll face all season here. So it'll be interesting to see if this is kind of a comeback down to earth game for Air Force, or if they're still able to just run the ball and run through guys. I'm going to take Air Force here just because of how well their offense is performing. We all know about their defense. If you know anything about the Mountain West or Air Force, you know their defense is where they make their money. But at 10.5, I'm going to take Air Force as the favorite here at minus 10.5. The Aztecs have just had a really hard start, and I don't know if they can play offensively any better than they played last week. And here they are against Air Force, who has a better defense than Boise State did, for crying out loud. So I'm taking Air Force at the minus 10.5.
So a couple points on that game. Coming off of a very tough physical game with Boise.
Yeah.
Which was a lot of mental energy, a lot of physical energy. San Diego State lives, plays, trains, practices at sea level.
Yes.
They're going to Air Force, Colorado Springs.
Correct.
Elevation difference.
Mm-hmm.
That can come into play, and as far as your oxygen and all of that, there is an acclimation period, all that stuff when they get there. Hopefully they can get acclimated. But Air Force runs that, that was the triple option, constantly running the ball.
Yep.
If they can have success running the ball like they have been, that could easily tire the San Diego State defense out very easily. What's San Diego State's record? Do you know off the top of your head?
They are now 2-3.
Okay.
They came into last week 2-2.
So
they're under 500.
I told you in our preview video, I've been talking about Maryland, which I think that after this week, they're going to be the worst 5-0 team in the country.
Right.
Kind of like a backhanded compliment. I figured they'd be 5-0, but maybe they'll be inflated because of their schedule. I think after this week, San Diego State might be the best 2-4 team because I think they are a solid team. Good, but their schedule has been crazy. Just like and Boise had a tough schedule.
Yes.
Wyoming has. I mean, those Mountain West teams, they play some people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the pick. I think San Diego State's a good team, but man, Air Force just looks like a juggernaut. They're coming to their place.
I just think it's too much. I'm with you. It's Air Force right now is. I don't think any Mountain West team wants to play Air Force right now. Nobody.
Agree with you.
So, luck of the draw for San Diego, or unluck of the draw for San Diego State. And then the last Mountain West. So Colorado State does play. There's no line out for that game. Maybe a game day pick if we get a line for Colorado State. But the last Mountain West game that I have is Nevada at Fresno State. And I'm actually not going to take the line here. So maybe I'm copping out slightly. But I'm going to take the over.
Okay.
The over on this game, over-under right now is 50.5.
Okay.
Which seems crazy low to me.
Yeah.
I mean, Fresno's been putting up tons of points.
Yeah.
Nevada's offense is actually the past several weeks, they've put up a decent number of points too. It's at Fresno. I mean, I see this 60 points scored. So I'm pretty surprised by this this over-under here at 50.5. So I'm going to take the over on the Nevada-Fresno State game, over 50.5. And I'm going to lock the 50.5 to be over. I think Fresno State's offense is just going to keep right on rolling. I think Nevada will get some points, will get their points. And again, I think this is way too low for a point total.
So we got a big Mountain Ice cold lock.
Yes, we do.
The over, what was it? Over
50.5.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll write that down.
Then I got two other games, and one of them I called. I actually did 3 early line picks, so this will be my 3rd early line pick. I'm going back to Georgia State. And they're the Panthers. So, again, to follow my Big Cat week, I took the Tigers earlier. I'm going to take the Panthers here. Troy goes to Georgia State. When I took them, it was -2.5. That line actually has changed to -1.5. So it's actually better now than when I took it.
Right.
I still like Georgia State. If you can now get them at 1.5. Great for you. I took them at 2.5. That's what we'll do here for the show. But you can get them now at 1.5. I love that pick. Their offense has been phenomenal so far this year. Really good team. So I'm going to go back to my Panthers there and see how they can do for me. The other one I'm going to take is Texas State at Southern Miss. Texas State Bobcats at Southern Miss.
Okay.
I'm surprised here by this line. It's only 5.5. Texas State's the favorite. I thought for sure this would be over a touchdown easily, upwards of maybe 10 points. So I really like Texas State here. Now, it is at Southern Miss, but Texas State, again, can score their points. We've talked about pick the offenses that can score if you're going to take them giving points. And at 5.5, I really like the Bobcats, and I'm going to make that my 3rd going out of conference here. We know how that has worked for us. Maybe not great, but I'm very confident in the Bobcats in this line. So I'm going to take Texas State Bobcats -5.5 with a Big Mountain ice cold lock.
Love it.
So let's get back over these here real quick. So I got Utah State at -5.5 with a Big Mountain ice cold lock. I've got Memphis -3.5. I've got UNLV -11.5. I got the Pokes at -13.5. I got Air Force at -10.5. For the Nevada-Fresno State game, I am going over 50.5 total points. Then in my other picks, I've got Georgia State at -2.5. Reminder, I think you can now get them at 1.5. And I've got Texas State Bobcats at -5.5. So I'm taking all favorites here, Steve. But I'll be honest with you, some of these spreads are slightly surprising to me. So I like some of these teams to cover these spreads.
All right, awesome. Well, those were JY's picks. Stay tuned. We're looking at doing some more individual game reviews. So if there's some really good games this weekend, we'll break down those games individually. We also have some conference realignment videos that are going to be coming out here soon. So make sure you subscribe, get the notifications, because the big thing is you want to see JY's game day picks, and those are kind of time sensitive. Usually Saturday morning. So you want to make sure you subscribe, set up your notifications, and look for those game day picks as well as our realignment videos. That's all I got, JY. What do you have?
I will tease my game day picks in terms of the 2 games that I'm looking at. I want to see what I mentioned the Colorado State game. I'll see where that's at Saturday morning. See if I can make a call on that. And then also I'm looking at Appalachian State. I think they're going to look to have a bounce back game after losing up in Laramie. So those are the two teams I'm looking at, Colorado State, Appalachian State. We'll see if I can get some game day picks on either of those teams.
So some of our we have some southern viewers, okay? And so they don't like how up in Pennsylvania we say Appalachian.
What should we say?
Well, I mean,
Appalachian.
I think it's Appalachian, but some of our southern viewers, I think, want to hear Appalachian or something.
Appalachian.
All
right.
So
I'll say it any way that makes people happy. Yep. Appalachian. I don't know, whatever. So, hey, thanks for tuning in for us. Hopefully we do as well as we did, again, the past couple weeks. Got some locks out here for us. And remember, we'll do a reaction video come Sunday, Monday. So you want to hear what we have to say about it. We're going to actually focus more on our locks, I think, moving forward instead of going over all the games. And we'll, again, look at those early lines and see if we got some picks for you there coming out of the weekend. So, hey, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on the Big Mountain.